Welcome to heCast, the official podcast of He Changed It. As always, I am Mike Chisholm. As always, I'm excited to have conversations around the world of men's mental wellness, having guests on who, provide insight or tell their stories. Today's one of those guys who I just really, really appreciate him because he and I have some similarities in how we kind of view life and some of the things that we've done. But he's much younger and much more successful than I am. His name is Connor Treacy. Now, Connor he's a promoter and a manager in the music business. He runs everything through his corp, the Connor Treacy LLC, and he does all sorts of fun stuff. And he's worked with amazing artists, both who are like up and coming right now, but also legendary people in the music business. And he's got a really cool story. So I kind of dive into his story as to what kind of has the ingredients that made him who he is right now. And he talks about how he was a child athlete, and athletics are still very important to him up to this day. And what just his mindset, how he thinks about things. And yes, we tell some of the stories of some of the events he's promoted in the past and some of the people he's worked with, but it's not about that. It's about what makes him him. And it's a really fun episode. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Connor Treacy. Connor, I'm really excited that you have taken time out of your day to be on heCast. You're in LA today, right?
Yes, I am.
How are things going in California right now?
In what sense?
I don't know, man. You hear things and it's like all the polarization that's going on in our society right now. I'm a big LA Kings fan, and I've got a lot of friends down in LA, right? And I mean, depending on who I'm talking to, people are like, man, things are crazy times in Cali right now. What's your perspective? Are things crazy, or are they is that all hype?
I feel like COVID kind of threw things for a loop out here. But I think that things are on the up and up now. Obviously we had the fires. So that was like really hard for a lot of people here to go through. Like I had friends and stuff that lost their houses and stuff, but
yeah.
aside from that, I think COVID really like just put all the LA at the end of the day. I mean, a lot of the industry is entertainment, and so all of that basically got shut down. It seemed like for like a year or something, or maybe even longer. And so I feel like it just took a minute to bounce back. But I feel like I try to be positive. I feel like things are on the up and up right now. But yeah, it's weird times. I think there's that, and there's also like the like movie business in general. Like I don't know if like a lot of jobs are leaving or if we're fighting to keep them here, but there's some things getting shook up. But overall I feel like it's better than it was a couple of years ago.
The reason I ask is I know you've been through a journey, to get where you are right now. I know athletics are a big part of your life. You like playing tennis and making sure you're staying fit, but also you want to keep the mind fit. Sobriety is a big part of your life. I would love to know like what it is that you're doing now. And really let's go back to what it was that caused you to make that decision. There's a lot of guys who listen to this right now who might be kind of teetering on the edge of going, is going sober the way that I should maybe move the direction of my life, that kind of a thing. I'm super curious to go through your story.
Yeah. So, I basically, work across entertainment. So I'm a music producer, a manager. I co-owned a nightclub for 3 years, which I did up until about like a year ago. So
oh wow.
Yeah. I kind of float between like hospitality and the music business. But yeah, I got sober when I was 19. So I was in my freshman year of college, like right at the beginning of second semester. And I don't even know if second semester started yet. It was January of 2012. So yeah, I don't know. I think for me, like I knew about sobriety and just kind of, I don't know, it just wasn't like fun anymore. It seemed like a lot of like it was just like more problems than fun, you know? And so I think I just, for whatever reason, just decided I was done. And my life changed like very fast after that. Like I was doing events at
Yeah.
the time, and so I did this like Project X like mansion party that got on the news like in like March of that year. And so the events like took off very fast after that. And so I kind of usually just say that, you know, work and the events and stuff kind of became like my new addiction in a sense. And so I really just got sober and stayed sober because things got so good so fast, you know? And I
Wow.
feel like it's like my Achilles heel kind of, you know?
So young people making the decision to go sober fascinate me. It always does. Every time I hear something, because it's more common than one might realize. I think a lot of people stereotype, you know, these things where, or oh, I wrecked my 20s, or I wrecked my 30s, or I wrecked my marriage in my 40s, and now I've made the decision to go sober. And again, not throwing any shade or anything on people who have those stories. Of course, I think they're just the more stereotypical type. Every time I hear somebody who decides to make that decision, like even sub 25, you know, it's fascinating to me. What were the substances that were holding you back?
I was just drinking a lot, honestly.
Yeah.
And it was more like I was a competitive tennis player, so
Yeah.
um I don't necessarily I guess I wasn't necessarily like drinking every day because I, you know, had school and I had to go to um like practice right after school, and I'd have tournaments on the weekend. So it was more like if it wasn't tournament weekend, then I would go kind of not, you know what I mean? And then it
Yep.
just kind of after a while just became where I was just like, I feel like I'm like meant to be like better than this. You know what I mean? And then especially like the first semester of college when I didn't have my parents around and this, and you know what I mean? And so I just kind of woke up like in January of like my freshman year kind of and was like, I'm just done. Yeah. And so I just
Connor unleashed without the parents, and then you know you see what happens when
yeah.
you pull the governor off, right?
Yeah, yeah, like it was yeah, I just kind of but I feel like I'm the kind of person where I'm like that, where like once I'm done with something, I'm done, you know?
Yeah.
So I but it wasn't like it was I was definitely drinking for a number of years and stuff like that. So it wasn't like, you know, I don't like miss it or regret it or feel like I like missed my 20s drinking or something like that. So that was
Yeah.
kind of I just came to like a fast conclusion where I was just like this isn't I don't drink like one beer. That's not like what I'm trying to do. If I do drink, right? So
Right. So like, how long has tennis been in your life?
since I was like 10 years old, and before that I was doing judo, and I was really good at judo. I
Yep.
was doing yeah, I was doing judo since I was like 4, and I was a national champion around the time I was 10.
Yep.
And then I quit cold turkey. I won, qualified for the Junior Olympics, quit, and then like the next day my dad had like a tennis pamphlet like on my bed, and then I started playing tennis after that basically.
Can you remember, like, you're 10 years old, 10, 11 years old, like that's a young age. Can you remember the mindset you were in when you decided to quit? Was it a joint decision with the family? Was it shocking to people? When you decided to stop doing, do you remember any of that?
Yeah, my mom supported it, and then my dad basically like I guess we had an agreement with it where he was like, okay, like once you do the nationals, like you can quit if you want, you know. But like it's just like when you're basically judo, it's basically just wrestling, right? So
Yep.
it's like when I think when you're under 18, you're not allowed to do arm bars or chokes. So
Right.
I think it's basically just wrestling, right? So you're kind of grappling and like you throw people on the ground and then you can like pin them and do all that kind of stuff. And so
Yep.
yeah, it's like when you're doing that I was basically doing that competitively like every weekend since I was like 4 or 5. And then, you know, you start winning these tournaments and then you have all these expectations, and it's super like in your face, you know, you're literally fighting people. And like I kind of like I was a kid, so I like wanted to watch like Pokemon on the weekends, or I wanted to do like normal things. And it was a lot of training and running and weightlifting and all sorts of stuff. And so I think like I don't know, I just was like over it.
Yeah. At
So that
10, at
at
10,
10.
making a decision like that you're over it. Now looking back, like it's funny, I've got a granddaughter. She's 8 years old, and she's has for 4 years, for half of her life, she's been in mixed martial arts, and
Yeah.
and you know, and she's good at it, and she trains 4 days a week. Um, and my goal for that for her, and our family's goal for that for her, was that she would never really have fear, that she would know how to take care of herself. She would understand commitment and athletics and the competitive nature, that sort of a thing. That's my vantage point looking back on that. I'm super curious about your vantage point now, being an adult, looking back on the fact that you had athletics as such a part of your life up to that point. Did it serve you? Is it something that you would do with your kids?
Um, hmm. Well, my dad is like, have you ever seen like the Tiger Woods documentary?
Mm-hmm.
My dad is like that, where like from a
Mm-hmm.
young like you like I don't know if like stage dad is the right word, where he like wanted to, you know what I mean? But my dad has just been like on me like that since I was like very, very young.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really like know the difference. It wasn't like an option. It was just like, this is what I'm doing, right? And so part of it, I guess, is like I'm that way now with like work, where like I always feel like I have to be like doing something or like achieving something. It's like wired in my like, cause I don't really like know the difference, right? Because I've been doing it
Yep.
since I was so young. Um, but at the same time, like I don't know if I would be like that with my kids. It's tough. The world is competitive though. You know what I mean? People don't
Mhm.
talk about it a lot, but it's, like it's a competitive world. So I feel like when you are trained like that from a young age, like it, I guess maybe programs you to be more successful. I don't really know. I just don't I also like working myself, and my dad, I think, like retired earlier, or like something. He had a lot of time where he could spend it focusing on me. He
Mhm.
honestly probably would be a better dad than you know what I mean? I feel like I'm going to be like working a lot and traveling and doing things. So I don't know. It's an interesting question, but I think for me, like I would be maybe more organized about it. Like I would maybe be like, hey, like, let's maybe do this sport so that you can get into this college, or hey, like let's just focus on grades and you can be pretty good at the sport and play like on the club team at the
Mhm.
school, or you get what I'm saying? So, because I was oddly enough, like I even was like thinking about it when I was that young.
Yep.
I felt like with judo, I was like, I don't know, I don't know what the end game is here, because the UFC didn't exist. So I was like,
Sure.
I was like, I don't get how I'm gonna make money doing this when I'm old. I was thinking like that when I was like 7, 8, 9 years old. Because I was like, judo's like one of those sports like back then, like you do the Olympics and then it's oh, and I was just kind of like, I don't know, I don't know where this leads to. I guess now, like with the UFC and stuff like that, in hindsight or whatever. But that was kind of my mindset too at the time. So I was like, all right, like I'm fighting people every weekend. I don't. It's stressful. And then on top of that, I was like, I don't know where this really goes ultimately.
Right. So you're looking for the why.
Yeah.
Whereas like for us with our it's funny, tournaments for her, we didn't know that MMA tournaments and jiu-jitsu tournaments and things like that for, kids under 10 existed, but there we are at 6 years old, and she's already, doing some tournaments, and she's getting medals and enjoying that. So that was something for her to work for. Like, what about the idea? Like, it's interesting to me that back then you were already kind of thinking around the corner going, okay, well, what's the end game to this?
Yeah.
That being said, the drive that you have for business and some of the projects that you have, I can't wait to get into your college years and talk about the entrepreneurship that you were displaying while you were in college, which is kind of remarkable in a lot of ways. Um, do you think that drive came from the formative years of the judo, learning the habits necessary for commitment and things like that?
Yeah, because I'm used to being like in pressure situations like my whole life basically, and training and like I didn't have like a normal childhood in the sense where like I could just roam off and do whatever, or like go have fun with my friends for the weekend. Like it was always like, okay, you have this tournament in Sacramento this weekend, or you have like my dad would be like right outside of school at the end of school, and we'd go straight to the dojo, or like you know what I'm saying. So and then I would get home at like 8 o'clock at night. So it was never like I could just like walk home from school and like hang out with my friends and do whatever, like for the most part, you know? So, I guess it like hardwired my brain to like always feel like I have to like be doing something every day, or otherwise I'm like falling behind. Maybe I don't know. Like,
And you still have that.
yeah, bad.
Really? What would you call it if you had to give it a name or a label? What would you call it?
Nothing's ever enough. No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hey man, we're all on journeys right now, and I mean, there's a lot of guys who listen to this show who you know, the whole idea of I am enough is a sanctuary. And I mean, there are a lot of guys out there that are searching for, you know, they're connecting dots, whatever that might be. You know, we talk about it on the show, you know, where society tells us we're, you know, go to good school, get a good job, you know, get in a good house, get a good relationship. And that's what we're told to do. And so you strive for these things, but I love where you're coming from going, well, yeah, but why? Where's the purpose in that? Right.
Right.
And so like, let's fast forward to today, and then we'll go back again into the Wayback Machine on that. Like what brings you fulfillment today? Do you get fulfilled today? Or is that a journey that you're on right now to figure out where something is enough and you've got a plane of existence of satisfaction?
I think at this point, like, I'm just trying to like continue to like build out my name and like my business, and like, I guess ultimately like see how far I can take it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, honestly, like I just I still just like work a lot. I literally like all I really do is just work or play tennis, and then yeah, I don't know.
So
But
tennis comes into your life at 10 years old, and you went pretty far with that as well. Was there a clearer end game when it came to tennis? Like, was it a scholarship thing? Or was it a, you know, like, no, I want to one day play in the US Open. Like, what was the goal there?
yeah, I mean, this is at least my interpretation of it. Judo, I was on a clear track to being like an Olympic level, probably if I would have stayed on that track. Like
Yep.
I definitely, that was probably more like a straightforward path. I don't know with tennis if I ever would have been considered like the next Federer or something like that. I was like, because I started at like 10 or 11, and then my
Mm-hmm.
dad had no experience in tennis. So tennis is kind of like golf. Like, you know how to like swing it, and like it takes, so you know what I'm saying? But
Technique is huge. Yep.
yeah, but I was pretty good. Like I would say, you know, maybe at my peak, like a top 20 or 30 in like SoCal type person, maybe
Yep.
75 or 100 in the nation. I was like in the group of people that were the best. I was
Mm-hmm.
maybe like middle of the pack, or you get what I'm saying? So I have
Absolutely.
like some people I played in tournaments with where like they would have been the 1 or 2 seed, and then they ended up becoming like professionals. So I was like in the mix. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't think I was ever like the one, if
Right.
that makes sense. But you know, I went to Santa Monica High School. I played #1 on the team there all 4 years. I played D3 tennis at Cal Lutheran. I think at my peak, I maybe was like 2 singles and 1 doubles. I think I was maybe like top 10 in the nation in D3 at my peak. And then I played 1 year of club tennis at USC. So I was pretty good, but
Yep.
not like ever on a track to being like a Nadal or something like that.
I'm curious about your dad. First off, I'm sorry I don't know the answer to this question. Is your dad still around?
Yeah, my dad is.
What's the
My dad,
relationship like?
hey, still on me today. Yeah.
What is his background like? What is he like? Because I mean, if you're gonna really try and breed, really at the end of the day, you know, it's a fascinating conversation to me, because when you're a parent, sometimes you're one of those parents that you want to breed a champion. You literally want to put championship mindset into your kid. And I mean, don't get me wrong, setting your kid up for the future to be the most well-rounded or to think like a champion, that's a great thing. But then there's the other side of the coin. And what do they miss out on because they focus so hard on, achievement? And so I'm curious about that. But what's his background?
So he's from Ireland. He immigrated here when he was like in his early 20s. And so I don't know if that's why or the way he was raised or what, but like he's the one. It was my mom is like very like happy-go-lucky, chill. It was my dad that's like very like I'm curious to see what plays out with him and my nephew. My nephew's 2 right now, so I feel like my dad's like mellowed out a bit now. He like because he's like 68, so he's like a lot chiller. But I'm curious to see with my nephew if he tries to do the same deal with him or if he's like a bit more relaxed. So
okay, so your nephew. So is this a sister or a brother's kid?
Yeah, my sister has a nephew. He's 2, and
it's just your sister and you.
Pardon?
Is it just your sister and you?
Yeah, okay, it's just my sister. Yep. And actually with my sister, like. He definitely tried doing sports and stuff with her, like with us together when but then it quickly became where like I was more like the focus of it, I guess. But I also just like played the game more. I just like kind of went along with whatever he wanted me to do more so, you know what I'm saying? So maybe I was just an easier target, but
what did he do for work? He's obviously a hard worker. His work ethic is second to none, clearly. What did he do for work?
He was an electrician. So,
okay.
Yeah. So
did he own his own business or did he work for a company?
Yeah. No, he had his own business. But I just think he just really likes sports. I don't know. It's like he just like really like was focused on the sports. Like I even talk about it like with people now where like school was like kind of a thing, but like if I got like B's, like it was kind of all good. The sports mattered like way more. It was never like if I got like a B or a B minus, like people would be freaking out in the household. It was just like always more about the sports. So
okay, but what if you got a silver in something? Did they freak out then?
Like okay. Like cars turned on in the parking lot, ready to go, windows down. You're like, yeah, get in the car. Yeah.
Yeah. Silver. So silver was never, gold was the goal.
No, like if I played well in the tournament and like I lost to like the 1 seed or something and I got like a silver, it was more like just if it was like a bad loss or something, where like it was more like that. I feel like he was like somewhat reasonable. Like if I was like playing someone, yeah.
No, you have a high standard, but I mean, where I'm coming from is it's a far cry from, you're going to be gold or there are acceptable losses all the way down to everybody gets a participation award. Like, see what I'm saying? Like, it's like, the goal was always greatness. The goal was always to do the very, very, very best and achieve. The result was important as well. It wasn't just the effort. The result was important as well. But again, it's very clear that you have taken that with you throughout your life, just listening to even, the idea of what it is you do. So talk about your business for a second here, and then we'll go back to college for a sec, but talk about your business now.
Yeah. So, for one, I'm finishing my MBA at USC. So I'm done with that in about like a month. So
congratulations. Oh, that's gotta feel good. That's gotta feel great.
Oh my God, that was rough. So much math. Yeah, but right now I basically am like a talent agent. So I represent like creators, DJs, musicians, put together deals, that kind of stuff. But yeah, like I said, I co-owned a nightclub for 3 years before this. That was like pretty successful. And then before that, I was working at Universal Music Group. So I was a A&R and a manager.
So A&R, that's interesting. Did you ever find anybody? Did you ever go out there and find anybody that became something that we might have heard of?
Yeah, so the first artist I ever worked with is this artist named Youngblood. He's like a
Mhm.
rock act, and he just won a Grammy this year
Yep.
with Ozzy Osbourne. Yeah, and I started with him when he had like one song out and like 5 or 10,000 followers on Instagram. I had more followers than him when I started working with him. And he was the first one. And then I also was managing a producer while I was at the label, and I got him placed on Dua Lipa's album Future Nostalgia, and that won a Grammy also. So I was 2 for 2, and then I bounced after like 2 years.
What made you bounce?
Um, I I'm pro record label. I like working. I like the labels. I think they're good. I just feel like the position I was in, I was like a hamster on a wheel where I just like kept bringing in things, and then once it got to a certain point, then like my higher ups would grab it or take, you know what I mean, and then they'd be like, all right, we'll bring in something else, you know what I mean. So I was like, I feel like I, it's fine. I understand business, and I was grateful for the opportunity, because before that I was just like a nightclub promoter, but I
Yeah.
felt like in order to get to the next level after that, I had to leave and kind of start my own company and represent and develop my own acts. So that was kind of like my thought process at the time.
Promotion is so fascinating to me. I've done it personally, just on a local level.
Yeah.
We had I think I've talked about it on the show a little bit here. We had I always believe that if you do well in a community, it's up to you to give back to the community as well. And so we did but I also marched to the beat of a different drummer than a lot of people. I don't believe like, I'm sure people have great times during the charity golf tournaments and the walks and things like that. But we did something a little different. Business partner and I, we did a professional wrestling promotion that ran twice a year where we are, and we had a whole business model behind it. We treated it like a business. We were in the black before one ticket was sold every time, and we raised like $250,000 for local charities and had a lot of people having a lot of fun by creating these events. Promotion is one of those things. I'll tell you this. I'm not a big drug guy in any way, shape, or form, but I got to ask you this question because um, I tell people the best drug of all time was the endorphin rush that would happen after we had a successful wrestling event, and we all would go to the restaurant or whatever after, and we get a bunch of the wrestlers to go there, kind of a meet and greet kind of a thing, right? And if the dance floor opened up, I would just go out there dancing alone because it was the night of a successful event, and there's no drug or high that can touch the feeling of you know conceiving, producing, executing, and then finishing with no snags, an event like that. I'm super curious if you feel that or if you don't feel that because you're already on to the next one.
Yeah, no, that's like that's crazy you said that. That's like that I always say this too, like when I first started doing the events, like I didn't really even like think about the money that much. I just liked the feeling of like putting together the event and it like being poppin'. Like that was like, and I was just chasing that every time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what it's like. You're chasing it. Like I remember we did, and none of our events were ever failures. They were all successful, right? But one time, I don't know if you know wrestling at all. We brought a guy by the name of Mick Foley in,
Yeah,
and
that's
Mick Foley's one
crazy.
of the biggest. He's one of the biggest wrestlers of all time.
Yeah,
He's
yeah, yeah.
gigantic, you know. And then the next, well, one of the next events, we brought in a guy who wasn't as big. So Mick's show, I mean, like it was crazy. Like we knew our limits. Like the building was rated for 400, so we could squish, typically 600 in that building, and it felt right. It had the right energy, the feeling, all that. But with Mick, when he showed up, we had 800 people there, and the police were there, but they were there more as fans than they didn't stop the event. It was awesome. It was so good. And that night of the after the event, I mean that endorphin rush, the next one, you couldn't be any better than that one was. It didn't matter who we brought in. It couldn't have been better than that night. It was just magic. And looking for the satisfaction of the next one was very successful, but it wasn't quite what that peak was. And I know that I had to do some mental gymnastics in my head to kind of calm my head and my heart down to say, no, 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 this was still really, really good. I'm curious if your standards are like that, where there are things that would be not just fine, but really good to some people, but in your mind, it's a disappointment. Is that something that, do you disappoint yourself sometimes with that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely could like tell the difference between like a party that was like out of here popping, and then kind of just like whatever. And then especially when you're doing kind of like like I was doing like the weekly circuit where like I was doing like One Oak and Talgroup, like all that kind of stuff where
Yep.
one Thursday or one Saturday is just like amazing. And then the next week after that, it's like, and so you're always like, that's like the tough part about that business too. Cause you're like, oh, is it over? Like, am I done? Like, it's like a never ending cycle. Like you never win. You know what I mean? You constantly have to keep kind of doing it. Right. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's like, highs and lows to it for sure.
Yeah. So let's go back to college here for a second. Okay. So, at some point you realize the drinking isn't serving you, and substances just aren't for you. So you make the decision. Um, I'm curious about your perspective, Connor, about the idea of, going sober and saying zero tolerance whatsoever versus some people who are like, well, yeah, every once in a while, one here and there is fine. In your mind, why is it one or the other?
Cause I guess I'm just wired that way, right? Where like even with the tournaments or the work or the this or that, it's just like kind of like all or nothing. Like, and I feel like things just got so good so fast when I stopped drinking, and
In
I
what
just was
way?
like
Talk about some of the ways that they got good for you.
like how you're talking about, like when you like started putting together the events and like when Mick would show up and you'd
Yep.
feel like very fast. I got sober like in January. Like for example, March, I already did a party that was in the news, and then by like July of that year, I had booked like YG with my own money and was like selling tickets for it like at a club in Hollywood. Like so it happened so fast that I just was like there's no way I could even sustain this or keep it up if I was drinking, you know?
There you go. There you go. Okay, so how old are you at the time? You make the decision at 19. Did you say 19?
Yeah, I was 19 doing all that.
Okay, so where did the idea, did you have a mentor? Where did the idea of I'm going to do these parties here, and obviously they're doing it for a profit as well, right? There's that element of it as well.
Right.
Where did that come from? Where did that entrepreneurial spirit come from?
I don't know because I always felt like in high school that like I didn't really have my thing. Cause like I was good at tennis, but I felt the same way about tennis as I did with judo, where I was like, where's this going? Like I usually like to do things where I feel like there's like a clear end goal. And
You're
so,
shooting for something. You need a goal. You want something to shoot for.
yeah. And I felt like, in high school, like there was always like the one person that was like the guitar player or the actor or actress or the rapper or the this or the that. Like everyone kind of had their thing. Like I didn't have my thing,
Right.
and then I don't really know where I got the idea. I think I just decided to do like a party like on my 18th birthday or something at someone's house, and I just like felt like it clicked, like, which is crazy to think that that's like where this all turned out from. But I literally started by doing like a house party in someone's backyard, like when I was 18, and then got sober like 2 or 3 months after that. And then, yeah, like fast forward like 6 months after that, I was already like booking YG, like in
As a
Hollywood.
full-time
Yeah,
student, you're doing this.
full-time student, and I paid for the whole thing myself. I was a tennis coach, and so I was getting like probably like 20 to $50 an hour probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was just using the tennis lesson money to pay for like the artists and the venues and all that stuff. And so it was like really hard mentally to deal with, because not only was I worried about like if people would come, but like I had no idea how much to pay for the artists. I had no idea how much to pay for the venues. I didn't really have that much money. It's like if you're paying these people like 2 to 5K and then the bar minimum's like 3 to 5K, like
Yeah,
8K
it's a
to
high
me,
wire
that's
act.
yeah, that was like my whole savings if I even had that. Sometimes I had to like borrow money from a neighbor or like partner with people, like, so I was like going all in every single event basically.
Okay, now I just want to put in perspective. Clearly, you had running mates, you had friends who were there, throughout your life. At that point, you had people that you were hanging with, that were in your social circle. Were you the outlier? Were you the only entrepreneur of the group, while everybody else was kind of, on the conventional, if you want to call it, path? Or were you surrounded by people who thought the same way that you did?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the people I grew up with, maybe in high school, like yeah, I kind of stopped hanging out with them probably when I started doing the events, but I feel like not out like I was like so focused on I really felt like I was onto something with the events.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of just like went all in. And um I feel like the new friends I came across a lot of people along the way where, there was people my age that were doing the events and this and that. And I wasn't even the biggest one in the beginning. Like I would kind of be more the one where I would secure the venue or the this or the that, and then I would bring in the two biggest promoters and partner with them and do, you
Right.
know what I mean? So
Yep.
I kind of just like Jimmy rigged my way up, if that makes
God,
sense.
oh no, 100%. I mean, I should, by all stretches of the imagination, there's no reason I should be in the pro wrestling business. I was a financial planner by trade, but
Yeah.
suddenly I found myself where I was invited behind the curtain and started being taught how it worked, and like it's this crazy closed brotherhood of a genre, and suddenly I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? I'm picking up one of these WWE stars from the airport, and it's like, like how did I end up being this pro? I know exactly what you're talking about, but at the same time, it sure feels good, separating yourself out maybe from those who are in that conventional space where you're going towards something. And I love that you had existential thinking back then, going, okay, tennis doesn't really have an end game. That became more clear for you, as you're starting to do these things. So that's a great feeling. You're also really, showing that that it's proof that your associations are very much going to dictate the things that happen in your life and the direction that you're going in your life. Your associations are a big part of that.
Yeah, yeah. I yeah, I think like, it's just with anything else, like if you're just super into something and you're building it, you'll find people along the way that are kind of on the same wavelength, and you'll find your tribe and people to build with in that sense. So, when I first started doing like the events like that, like I found people like in that realm where they were down to maybe put in money with me and do the event, and they had their promotion company, I had my promotion company, and we were doing that. Or afterwards when I started doing the 21 plus like celebrity nightclub world, I knew I was like rolling around with people that also were doing that. And then when I moved more in the music business, I was around managers that were doing the same thing as me. So I kind of just kept you know, gravitating towards like people that kind of were on the same wavelength as me.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
What did you call your promotion company?
In the beginning, it was like West Side Promoters or something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, that's the beginning. What else? What did it morph to? It didn't stay West Side? You went somewhere else? You called it something else?
Yeah, it's just my company still today, Connor Treacy LLC. And so
Yep.
I just do everything through Connor Treacy LLC. So any records that I have signed are through Connor Treacy LLC, any equity and companies are through Connor Treacy LLC. The nightclub, the equity I had in that was through that. And you know what I mean? So that's kind
You
of
run everything through the corp. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
what I
your
do
name is the
everything.
corp. Like that's the brand that you're building, is the name.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
your
yeah.
name is your name moves into different spaces. And I'm curious about, okay, so the MBA is almost done.
Yeah.
At that point, then, kind of school is off your back. I don't imagine you're going to go for a doctorate or anything like that. So
Done after this.
yeah.
No more.
So, okay. So at that point, where do you want, like, if you had aspirations, because again, we're talking about how you have this personality of, okay, well, what's the point? Like, where's it going? What's the end goal? However you want to, the language you want to use it. Um, what are some of the things that you would like to bring into the Connor Treacy LLC world?
Yeah, so I did the MBA because when I was at Universal, I originally was just a dropout from Cal Lutheran, right?
Mm-hmm.
So For one, I felt like my value, or like why people knew me or wanted to work with me, is because I like had a lot of like celebrity relationships and stuff like that from the nightclub world. And so I
Right.
kind of felt like that was like my value, which isn't very sustainable, right? Because, you know, people stop going out, people get married, people, you know what I mean? So it's, you constantly have
Yeah.
to keep up with befriending and being around like the next gen and the new people that are hot, you know what I mean? So I had that. And then also like, I never was really asked in the nightclub hospitality world, but in music, when I was in the corp, they'd always, oh, where'd you go to school? And like, I'd always have to be like, oh, Cal Lutheran. And like, I, it's not that it's a bad school. It's a good school. It's just like no one, like, it wasn't as known. Like sometimes maybe be like, oh, like my nephew goes there. Like, you know what I mean? But it wasn't,
Yeah.
I felt like, I don't know. I just felt like for me to get to the next level, I needed like a higher up degree.
You want it to be
Uh,
papered. You
yeah,
did it
yeah,
because
yeah.
you wanted to
I
be papered.
just,
Yeah.
yeah. And so that's why, yeah. So I did my MBA at USC, and yeah, just to kind of, that's kind of why I did it, you know? And so I feel like now I won't have as much of a ceiling on me where people are like, oh, like he's street smart, or oh, he's a hustler, but, or like, you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
kind of why.
I totally know what you mean, 100%. You know, credibility, I think, is something that is earned, but sometimes things like that can kind of get you into the conversation for the opportunity to have it to be
Right.
earned, right? You know, so it's a tool that you're going to use for that. It makes total sense, and it again shows it goes back to the way that you think. Like I love picking the brains of people who have brought themselves success and are on the right path with momentum, because there's a lot of people who are stagnant, and they don't know how to start getting that momentum. And mindset is a huge part of it. You're going back for this degree not because it's going to get you anything except for some credibility. For other people, sure, but how much of that is for your own mind versus other people? Like you've got this laundry list of things that you've done that kind of show, hey, you deserve a seat at the table, you know, whatever table it is. You are a grinder. And I mean, at the end of the day, what would you rather be, a grinder or somebody with a certificate on the wall? Well, you are the grinder. You got the part that not everybody gets, but still you have this standard for yourself. And I think that if there's a lesson, you know, something that we could throw out there to guys who are listening to this, like, what's your standard for yourself? And maybe if we raise the vibration of that a little bit, you know, opportunities might show up. Do you like, so let's keep going with the company though. So you're gonna get you got the MBA, so you got the, you know, you've got it, scratch that itch, you've got her done. What direction do you see your company going now that you're gonna have some time more time to pour into it?
Yeah, I feel like maybe like I mean, obviously these people are like way bigger than me, and I'm not like anywhere near their level or whatever, but I feel like the direction I'm trying to go is like a David Geffen, like Michael Ovitz type world. Yeah, that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like the agent
I love that
super.
you mentioned Mike Ovitz.
Yeah.
Like Mike Ovitz is a hero of mine. I don't
Yeah.
like, we didn't know this re-interview. I'm glad you mentioned him. We can talk about him after, but okay, Geffen, Ovitz. So these are gigantics. These are guys who are so big they're considered like moguls. You know,
Yeah.
Jimmy Iovine and guys like that. Have you met any of these people?
Um, I've met like a few of the younger ones, or I slash know some of them, but like
Yeah.
Geffen specifically, no. I've seen Ovitz once at a restaurant, like in
Yeah.
Beverly Hills, but I didn't say hi to him. But maybe I should have told him I read his book. But um, I'm kind of like shy and awkward in person, so I'm not the type of person that would just go up to someone randomly unless there was an intro. But
Isn't that funny? You're shy and awkward in person, introverted, whatever, and you're a promoter and you're a guy
yeah,
who's networking. It kind of needs to be one of the very tippy top skills that you need to do that, but you're an introvert and you
yeah.
can fight. So is it just the goal, and so you fight your way through that and you just get uncomfortable, or is it just the fact that it was Ovitz and you had a hard time with that one?
I guess like I'm just the kind of person I probably wouldn't like approach someone unless I had like a reason to, right? So
Right.
if I had something that I thought maybe he would find valuable, where it's like, hey, like you know, I know the owner of this company and they'd love it. And it was like something that was like a super big deal. Sure. Then maybe it's like a talking point, but like,
Sure.
if I just like go up to him right now, I'm like, hey, like I work in entertainment, like he'd be like, all right, like, you know, so I kind of, sometimes I just wait because I feel like maybe if I like build up my stuff a bit more, then the timing would be better and it's a better first impression, you know?
Yeah, I completely understand. Yeah, maybe we can get into the obits of it all off camera. But like for me, one of the things I was told growing up, it was when I met my first my favorite band would play in Vancouver, and there's a legendary venue in Vancouver called the Commodore Ballroom, and it's my favorite venue of any venue of all time. And and behind the Commodore Ballroom, there's an alley, and that's where the, you know, it's on Granville Street in Vancouver. Basically, that's where the artist entrance is. And so when I was 16, 17, I would go back there to see my favorite bands as they were either coming in for sound check or whatever. And there was an old guy who was out there, and you know, what we call him old, he was probably 40. You know, but when you're a 16-year-old, 40 is ancient, right? And I remember him saying, there was somebody who was there saying, I forget who we were meeting. It might have been Mike Patton, actually, from Faith No More, or Mr. Vaughn. It might have been him, and he's known as being kind of persnickety to fans. And I'll never forget this, because that's what somebody was. It was Mike Patton. Somebody was commenting on it and saying, "Oh yeah, you know, don't meet your heroes." And the guy looked at us and he said, "No, go meet your heroes. Just have zero expectation whatsoever, because they could be having a bad day. They could be what you don't even know. So just have no expectation whatsoever, except for the fact you get the chance to meet them." And then he said, "Have a question ready. Have a question." So like, and for you, I feel like if you would have had that thunderbolt question, that instant question, you would have gone to Ovitz no problem whatsoever. But you weren't in that space to do that. I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth or anything. But
Oh no, you're right. You're right.
Who are some of the people that that you met, whereas at the time it was like, holy cow, I can't believe I'm meeting this person, and then it kind of leveled you up, so then you got to the place where, oh yeah, I'm meeting this person, I do business with this person, like what were some of, maybe not some of the people, but what were some of the events that caused you to stretch your thinking that way?
I remember the first time I met Kanye West, I like tripped out. I told him I was a fan too. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, my buddy I think works with him or whatever, and introduced me to him at like the end of this music video shoot, maybe like in 2015. And I remember that was like one of the first times where I just told him, I was like, hey, I'm a huge fan, like I, you know, really like your music or whatever. So that was like maybe the first time that I ever like was like, but I was tripping out, like I was tripping out even, for example, when I did the event, like where I booked like YG or whatever, I was like, that's crazy. Yep. Like you can just go on Google and like message these people's managers and they'll respond to you. Like that's insane. You know,
that's how you did it. That's so okay. So there you go. There's another success thing. Just go for it. You never know what's going to happen, right? With no outcome, they get back to you. Holy smokes! And then suddenly you're in a room with the dude, and now he's a guy that he's a business associate. And it's funny how just putting that out there, sometimes the universe throws it right back and goes, "Yep, no problem," and opens the door right away.
Yeah, no, I just learned all this stuff on the fly. So I remember I just started cold messaging people, and like sometimes they'd respond and they'd be like, okay, yeah, he's this much and he's available this day. And then I was like, that's insane. Like, I was like 19 living in a dorm, like as a tennis coach. So I was like, this is insane. And then they'd be like, and then I'd have no idea like how much to charge or how much I should be paying or any of that stuff. So that's literally like how it kind of was in the beginning.
I think that, you know, I don't know where that came from. I've got a similar vibe to it, to what you're talking about. You know, really at the end of the day, you come to a place in life where, it's really easy to do that. It's really easy to send that email, right? It's also really easy to go, no, and just shut yourself down for whatever reason, right? But to actually step through and go, no, I'm going to try this with no outcome whatsoever. Just trying it stretches you a little bit because you're getting yourself out there. and then you never know when it gets rewarded back at you. It feels like that's a key lesson that you've learned in your life so far.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's just my experience with the entertainment industry, or just my life or business in general, is, you just start off at one level and you try to do the next thing to get you to the next level, and then you use that to get to the, you know what I mean? So it was just constantly like little wins along the way, some bigger wins and sometimes huge losses, but if you can make it through the huge losses, then you're stronger going, you know what I mean? So it was
Yeah.
just like a progression.
Um, Connor, and by no means am I ending it right now or anything like that, but I looked at like your story, and one of the things that I love is I don't like doing pre-interviews. I really don't like doing pre-interviews, because I think if we do a pre-interview and you start to get some magic, like success leaves clues, right? And if we drop one or two of those clues in the pre-interview, very difficult to repeat that when you turn the record line on. And so but I'll tell you, I'll pull back the curtain a little bit, everybody. Um, one of the things that I will say in the pre-interview is that anything you want me to make sure I hit. And the majority of people who want to come on the show, not the majority, a, a portion of the people who come on the show, if they're a life coach or they're a counselor or they're something, they're promoting their business. They're promoting. One of the things I loved about you is that you said, no, I'm not really trying to promote anything right now. The irony being, of course, that you're a promoter. And as you're saying that in my head, I'm just I'm laughing at that, because it's so great. Um, you're not a shameless self promoter, but you're in the
Yeah.
promotion business. You're a go with the flow guy. You work hard. You have goals in mind. Don't get me wrong. You've got this high achiever mindset. We've talked about where it's come from. It was there from childhood. But at the end of the day, you're not a self promoter when it comes to this. And I'm curious if it's the sobriety, if you've done any ego work, if there are ways that you can kind of separate yourself out so you don't get swept away. I think it's safe to say you and I both have met promoters who are gigantic egomaniacs. There's a lot of people who are like that. You don't seem to be that dude, Connor. Is that on purpose, or is that just your disposition?
uh I think, like, don't get me wrong, like, definitely, like, along the way, I've felt like I was the thing, and then I've definitely felt like I wasn't the thing. I think I'm how I am now because I have had a lot of highs, a lot of lows, made money, lost money,
Mm-hmm.
had momentum, lost momentum, bounced back, reinvented myself, everything in between. So I feel like I've just already been through the blender, and I just kind of know that sometimes I'm going to be up and sometimes I'm not going to be up. And then also, in the grand scheme of things, even with what I have done, you can look at someone like a Geffen or a Ovitz and be like, I still haven't really done much, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of more like where I'm at and like why I'm this way.
Well, just even having the objectivity to understand that everything is temporary, and it's never as good as it seems. It's never as bad as it seems. That right there, I think, is probably one of the things. Those egomaniacs, people that I was talking about, I don't think they necessarily think that way. I think they live in that moment and they think that that's their identity. Whereas clearly, that that's not the case. But that doesn't mean you don't start striving and all of that. Um, I'm super, super grateful for you kind of opening up today about this, man. Like it's great. Do you do this very often? Like, is this one of those things that you do, or because I just really, really appreciate it. I think you've got there's a lot of value in all the things that you're saying. And I think it inspires people.
I'm trying to make more of an effort to like get out of my shell and talk more. I also too, when I was younger, like felt like it's kind of like taboo. I mean, you probably know this too. It's kind of like taboo when you're in the nightlife or whatever to like talk about people you're around and stuff. So I don't want to
Sure.
feel like I'm selling people out or disclosing secrets, or you know what I mean? So uh I try to like be conscious of that, but I feel like right now, like I'm just kind of talking about my experience. I'm not giving like insane info or something like that. So
Absolutely. No.
yeah,
Well, in my other podcast life, it's around the world of entertainment, and it's sensitive. And I have a thing called the circle of trust, right? Where there are certain things that can get out there. So for example, you can talk about that party that you had with YG, and this happened and that happened. These are all events that happened. They were public things, right? You don't necessarily talk about the conversation that you heard him having when he was on a cell phone with somebody, the salacious,
yeah,
gossipy bullshit stuff. You don't necessarily talk about that, right? It's an etiquette and a tech thing. That's where trust comes from, and that's how you get trust in that business. Is you're able to differentiate. But that being said, if you're in that business, yeah, it's fun to throw out there some of the things that you've done, and success leaves clues. I've had other wrestling promoters that have come to us going, how did you do this? Like, how did you get an event in the black before one ticket was sold? And then you just open up the playbook and you give the information that has nothing to do with. So that's really what this is about, and I think you're really good at that. You're good at kind of sharing the mechanics of what helped bring you to where you are, and I just appreciate that you're doing that. And you just said I'm making an effort to do that more. So clearly you still got that coach in you a little bit.
let's go.
See, I said a whole bunch of things and you just let's go. Yeah, that's right. Let's go. I'm stoked, man. I appreciate you coming on here today. And you're not really promoting anything, but at the same time, I would really hope that as you get this MBA out of the way and you start, kicking it into gear where you're that much more focused on this here, I hope that you really hit to some new horizons, some higher horizons, whatever that looks like for you. And that, and the Connor Treacy LLC is just, is rolling and doing more stuff, man. I really, really thank you for taking time to come on to heCast today.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. This was great.
Yeah. You had fun?
No, you're good. You have a good personality.
Oh,
I like
appreciate
this was, I felt like we were on a good roll.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, let's do a quick outro and then we'll say our goodbye privately. So just hang on for a second here.
Cool.
This is why we do the show, everybody. And I say that every time. This is why we do the show. We, picking the brains of people who have a different perspective and a perspective where success leaves clues. And Connor coming on here today, talking about some of the things that he has gone through, some of the things he's learned along the way, bad habits he gave up early on in life. Like that is what habit, that's a great question we can ask ourselves. What's a habit that's not serving me? What's something that I could kind of get rid of, and that would free up some RAM in my head to focus on some things that maybe move me in a better direction. I just love that. And I just appreciate every single person who's out there. If you haven't downloaded the He Changed It app yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Go to hechangedit.com for information. This has been another episode of heCast, the official podcast of He Changed It. My name is Mike Chisholm. Go change something.